Right then, folks. It's Wednesday the 6th of August, and if you're a Celtic fan, buckle up because the next few weeks are going to be intense. There's a lot going on at the club right now, from squad updates, fixture congestion, new signings, and transfer frustrations, to how we're shaping up for arguably the most important two legs of football we'll play all season. So let's dive straight in. Let's start with what I think is a pretty bold and possibly risky decision from the club. Celtic have chosen not to postpone the match against Livingston, which falls right in between our two Champions League, our playoff ties. Now, just to put this into context, other Scottish clubs who are also in European qualifiers, like Rangers, Aberdeen, and Hibs, have all taken up the option to push their domestic fixtures back, giving themselves more time to prepare. Celtic, on the other hand, have decided to plow ahead, stick to the schedule, and play Livingston as originally planned. Now, depending on your perspective, that's either a show of confidence or a gamble. On the one hand, you could argue that Brendan Rodgers and the coaching staff believe the squad is strong enough to rotate, get through the domestic match without overexerting key players, and still keep the momentum going. Maybe we'll see a few changes in the lineup, a bit of rotation to protect legs for the second leg in Europe. But on the other hand, and let's be honest, that decision could easily backfire if it results in fatigue injuries or worst case scenario dropped points. That's the fine line we're walking right now. And let's not forget the fans. Thousands of supporters, especially those traveling from Ireland and further afield, had already made travel arrangements for that weekend. Flights, ferries, accommodation tickets. Cancelling or rearranging the Livingston game last minute would have caused absolute chaos. So from a fan experience standpoint, fair play to the club for thinking of the people who make the atmosphere what it is. It's a decision that balances squad confidence with respect for the support. So what does that mean for August? Well, we've now got a fully loaded schedule and it's relentless. 6 matches in 24 days. We kick off this Sunday with a lunchtime trip to Pittodrie to face Aberdeen. Always a tricky place to go. Always physical and never a game where you can afford to be off the pace. Then we're back at Celtic Park on Friday night. Yes, Friday night football. For a Premier Sports Cup clash against Falkirk. Bit of a rare slot, but one that could actually work in our favor because it gives us a couple of extra days to recover before the European showdown. That showdown, of course, comes midweek, Wednesday the 20th of August under the lights at Celtic Park. That's the first leg of our playoff tie in the UEFA Champions League. We'll find out later. Today, whether we're up against Slovan Bratislava or KA of Iceland, but either way, it's a must-win. That tie is the gateway to the group stage. Not just for the prestige, but for the financial injection it brings. Qualification changes everything, especially with the window still open. After the first leg, we've got that Livingston game. On Saturday the 23rd, a home fixture and a good chance to keep domestic momentum going. Then just 3 days later, it's the second leg of the Champions League tie, this time away from home. The kickoff time might vary depending on which opponent we get. If it's Slovan, likely 8 p.m. If it's KA, we could be looking at something like 4 p.m. due to the time difference. And then to cap off the month, we go to Ibrox, the first Glasgow derby of the season. That alone is massive, the kind of match that can define a season's tone. But throw that into a schedule already bursting with pressure, and you start to see how important squad management and smart decision-making are going to be in the coming weeks. Let's switch gears for a second and talk about the latest signing, Jamai Simpson-Pusey, now officially a Celtic player and handed the number 4 shirt. That number might ring a bell. Last worn by Gustav Lagerbielke, and I know a few people rolled their eyes when that was announced. But let's give this lad a chance. He's young, quick, aggressive, and according to Rodgers, he's got the profile to contribute at both ends of the pitch. Someone who can defend, obviously, but also initiate attacks and carry the ball forward with purpose. That kind of versatility is rare in a central defender, especially one with so little senior experience. And that's where the debate starts. What's his role going to be? Is he a Project A squad option? Or has he been brought in with the intention of being Cameron Carter-Vickers' new partner at the heart of the defense? On paper, you'd think a 19-year-old with almost no professional minutes wouldn't be thrown straight into the starting 11, but this is Celtic, and we've seen this film before. Think back to 2014. Jason Denayer arrived with even less experience and ended up being a revelation. The hope clearly is that Simpson-Pusey can have a similar impact. Rodgers himself has been deliberately vague about his exact role, simply saying that he's been brought in to support, which, let's be honest, could mean just about anything. But the reality is, with Carter Vickers returning to full fitness, Liam Scales needing competition, and Austin Trusty still finding his feet, this new addition could prove to be a smart move if he settles quickly. So where does that leave the squad at? This was our 7th signing of the summer, and according to Rodgers, it might be our last defensive signing. We've now got 5 recognized center backs, and while you can technically throw Anna Moore into that mix as a left back, he didn't even make the squad last weekend when Kieran Tierney was only ever going to play an hour. That says a lot. Anna Moore might be heading out on loan before the window closes. He clearly isn't in the immediate plans. The real issue now is the attacking third. It's glaring. Right wing weak, center forward desperate, left wing unconvincing. We need quality, not potential, not projects. We need starters, the kind of signings that elevate the first 11, not just fill out the bench. The hope is still there that we'll see at least a right winger and a striker come in before that European tie. But the window's ticking and time is getting tight. If those 2 positions don't get addressed before the Champions League playoff, we'll be going into that tie short-handed. And everyone knows it. Looking at recent history, there's still reason to believe business will get done. Last summer, we dropped over £30 million, with a massive chunk of that coming in the final 2 weeks of the window. In fact, £18 million were spent on deadline day alone. That's when the likes of Luis Palma and Nat Phillips arrived. And the year before, we spent a decent amount too. But the hit rate on late signings has been, let's say, mixed. Some have stepped up, others have barely featured. This year, the spend has been low so far. About £3.5 million in total, but that doesn't tell the full story. Kieran Tierney and Benji Negron, 2 high-profile additions, came in for a combined fee of just $1.7 million. Wages aside, that's incredible value. The club deserves credit for pulling off those deals. But still, we're light in attack and no one's pretending otherwise. That brings us to the deeper frustration among supporters. And I'll be honest, I feel it too. The lack of urgency in completing deals the silence when the window hits its most crucial stages, the sense that Rodgers and the board might not be completely aligned. We've got a season-defining tie on the horizon, and yet here we are still trying to figure out who's actually going to play in the front 3. There's no need to blow up the squad. That's not what anyone's asking for. But there are clear and obvious gaps, and filling those with proper quality could make all the difference between another strong domestic campaign and something truly special in Europe. So that's where we're at. A stacked August European. Pressure mounting. Transfer business far from done, and Celtic, as always, walking that fine line between confidence and chaos. And if you're feeling like this all sounds a little familiar, you're not wrong. Because around this time last year, we were saying very similar things. The squad felt unbalanced. Key positions hadn't been addressed. Fans were panicking. The media was circling. And then slowly but surely, things started to come together. Brendan Rodgers got his players settled. A few late signings helped steady the ship. And by October, we were back in full stride, brushing off the early window jitters. That doesn't excuse the same patterns showing up again this summer, but it does at least give a bit of perspective. Celtic don't often do things early, whether that's by design or dysfunction, we can argue. But they do tend to get over the line eventually. The concern this time is that we got a Champions League qualifier staring us in the face. That changes everything. In previous summers, we knew we had group stage football guaranteed. We could afford to wait to stretch negotiations to gamble a bit on timing, but not this time. This time, every delay could mean going into a multi-million-pound playoff without the reinforcements we badly need. That's not just frustrating. It's dangerous to lose that tie and suddenly the tone of the season shifts. The finances take a hit. The squad morale dips, and the fans, well, they're already on edge. And the thing is, it's not like we're asking for miracles. We're not demanding 7 or 8 new players. No one's calling for a total rebuild. What we're talking about here is 3, maybe 4 players max. But they've got to be right. Not just warm bodies to sit on the bench, but players who can walk straight into the starting 11 and improve the team. A first-choice right winger, a top-level striker, and possibly another wide option or left back. That's it. That's the job. But it needs doing now. Not in 3 weeks. Not on deadline day when it's too late to register them for Europe. Now. And look, there's always that balancing act in the transfer market. You want value, you don't want to overpay, and you certainly don't want to repeat the mistakes of previous windows where we've panicked and thrown money at the wrong targets. But there's also a cost to waiting too long. Because while Celtic stall other clubs move, while we negotiate, other teams are betting in their new signings, getting systems in place, building rhythm. And in a season where the margins are going to be tight, especially domestically, that kind of delay can be costly. We've seen what happens when the recruitment strategy gets too clever. Last year's summer window is a warning in itself. Just under 19 million spent and not a whole lot of value in return. We brought in projects who weren't ready, we gambled on potential, and we were left scrambling at the end of the window to fix what we didn't address earlier. This summer has to be smarter, it has to be targeted, and above all, it has to support Brendan Rodgers in building a team that can compete at the level we expect, in Scotland and in Europe. And to be fair, the early signs this summer haven't been all bad. The signings of Tierney and Negron show that there's still an ability to get good deals done. The arrival of Simpson Pusey adds depth in defense, and players like Trusty and Yuki Kobayashi give us options. But it's the forward areas that continue to haunt us. Too many games last season where we lacked cutting edge. Too many spells where the goals dried up. And if we don't fix that, we're setting ourselves up for more of the same. That's why this next stretch of the window is crucial. Not just for the team on the pitch, but for the whole atmosphere around the club. Because right now there's tension, there's anxiety. There's that creeping feeling among the support that we've been here before, and that the same mistakes are being repeated. A couple of smart, decisive signings would change that mood instantly. Bring in a proper striker and a winger with pace. An end product, and suddenly the tone shifts from frustration to excitement. The whole vibe around the club lifts. It's that simple. And while we're talking about tactics and new signings, it's worth touching on something that might have gone a bit under the radar, the way Alistair Johnston and Kieran Tierney are functioning in this system. It's clear by now that Tierney's not going to play the inverted fullback role. That's not his game. He's old school, he bombs up and down the flank, and when he's fit, he brings a level of directness and urgency that we've badly missed on that left-hand side. But what's fascinating is how Johnston is adapting to complement that. When the ball's on Tierney's side, Johnston tucks in not quite a midfielder, but not a traditional fullback either. Almost like a third center back or a holding player. Stepping into midfield. It's subtle, but it matters. It gives us extra control, helps plug gaps, and could become a real weapon if we get the right players ahead of them. Imagine a proper right winger. Someone with pace, intelligence, and the ability to beat a man. Working off that shape. Johnston drifting inside, creating overloads in midfield, and the winger left one-on-one with the opposing fullback. That's the kind of pattern that elite teams exploit every week, but we need the personnel to pull it off. Young has had flashes, but he's not there yet. We need someone who can turn those moments into goals and assists consistently. Someone who fits that role naturally. And the striker situation is just as urgent. You don't win titles or navigate European qualifiers with a forward line that lacks punch. You can have all the possession in the world, but if there's no one there to finish the move, it counts for nothing. That's what cost us in a few key games last season, and unless it's addressed, it will cost us again. Rodgers knows it. The fans know it. The only question is, does the board know it? Because that's the underlying issue here. Trust, not in Rodgers. He's earned that. But in the people above him to actually back him properly, to act quickly, decisively, and with ambition. We're not asking to break the bank. We're asking for investment that reflects where we are as a club and where we want to go. Champions, league group stages, domestic dominance, developing players with real resale value. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you get the basics right. Recruitment, preparation, timing. And the irony is we're not that far off. That's the part that stings the most. This squad isn't miles away from being ready. There's a solid base. The defense looks good. Midfield is well stocked, maybe even overloaded. But the attack is threadbare. Fix that and suddenly the whole picture changes. The team feels balanced, the fans feel confident, and the manager has options instead of dilemmas. And make no mistake, the pressure's on. Every day that passes without movement ramps up the anxiety. Every time Rodgers gives a post-match interview and drops a hint about needing more options, it reinforces what we already know. Time is ticking and the margin for error is thin. So what happens now? Well, we wait, we watch, and we hope. Hope that the board has learned from previous windows. Hope that the lessons from past failures are finally being taken seriously. Hope that the players we bring in over the next few weeks, because let's be honest, we have to bring players in, are of the quality required to take us to the next level. Because we got one chance at this Champions League playoff. One chance to turn a decent summer into a successful one. One chance to show ambition. Not just ambition in words, but in actions. Signings. Statements of intent. That's what's needed now. Not spin, not excuses, just business. And when the window shuts, when the dust settles, we'll see exactly where we stand. Maybe the mood will shift. Maybe those key signings will arrive. And maybe, just maybe, we'll look back at this period as the moment Celtic finally got their act together and gave Rodgers the tools to do something special. But if we fall short, if the gaps in the squad remain, if the same old patterns repeat, then the noise will grow louder, the scrutiny will be harsher, and the goodwill, which has already been stretched thin, will start to snap. The next few weeks are absolutely massive, on and off the pitch. Every decision matters. Every signing, or lack of one, could tip the balance. Celtic are standing on a knife's edge right now. Fall the right way, and we could be heading into one of the most exciting seasons in recent memory. Fall the wrong way, and we'll be left with more what-ifs and missed opportunities. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important. For Celtic FC fans, it's been making the rounds in hushed voices across Glasgow. A whisper here, a mutter there, that Joe Hart, the former Celtic #1, has not taken his retirement quite as quietly as folk expected. Word is he's been spitting feathers behind the scenes, claiming he was discarded like any old Sharn after hanging up his gloves. While there's no official statement from Hart himself, sources close to the Englishman say he feels stung by the cold shoulder. He allegedly got faced Celtic once his final match was played. Supporters had assumed the keeper, who brought steel and composure to the Hoops' defense, had bowed out with dignity. But now, with these murmurs floating about, questions are being asked. Did the board really snub a man who led Father back and commanded respect across the pitch? If true, it's a sore look for the club, especially considering how vocal and loyal Hart was during his time at Parkhead. Fans are left wondering if there's more to the story. A bit of bitterness that's only now bubbling up. One thing's for sure, this will not go away quietly, no in Glasgow. Behind the scenes at Celtic Park, there's been no shortage of raised eyebrows since these supposed comments Joe Hart started doing the rounds. Folk who ken him well say he wasn't expecting a statue or fireworks, but even a small nod, a token of appreciation, would have gone a long way. Instead, what he reportedly got was radio silence. No speech, no send-off, barely a handshake. Some say Hart felt he gave his heart and soul to the badge, but when it came time to say goodbye, the club moved on as if he'd never been. That's a sting the professional wants to feel. Never mind one who's lifted trophies and kept clean sheets when it mattered most. Those close to the team whisper that Hart was quietly hoping to be offered a role, maybe coaching, maybe something else. But the call never came. It's left many supporting voices feeling uneasy. The Celtic faithful are proud, aye, but they're no blind. They see what a player gave and what he got back. If the rumors are true, this might be a case where loyalty Wisney returned in kind. And that's a sore one for any club to carry. Now there's talk that Hart even had early blethers with folk inside the club about joining the backroom staff. A quiet continuation of his role as a leader just off the pitch this time. But according to whispers, it all went cold fast. Word is there was no real plan for him, no direction, and maybe not even much interest. That's left Hart feeling sidelined and soured, say insiders. To make matters worse, he apparently feels he was running toward the ground last season, asked to give everything week in, week out, only to be shown the door without a backward glance. If there's truth in it, that paints a grim picture of how legends are handled at Parkhead. The big man had spoken before about wanting to stay in the game, keep contributing, and he's still got the brain for it. But instead of a smooth step into the next chapter, it seems like he was dropped off the edge. Celtic, meanwhile, remained tight-lipped, fueling even more speculation. This might not be just a wee fallout. it's shaping up to be a saga. Joe Hart's time at Celtic brought trophies, calm in the back line, and leadership when it was needed most. He wasn't just a goalie, he was a presence, a safe pair. All her hands in more ways than one. The idea that such a figure could feel cast aside is startling to many. Inside football circles, there's quite chatter that Hart shared his disappointments with a few familiar faces back down south, pals from his Premier League days. And it didn't take long for that to reach the ears of journalists. It's opened up a wider debate about how clubs deal with their veterans, especially those who still have something to offer beyond the final whistle. In Glasgow, opinions are splitting fast. Some say Hart's being a bit sensitive. Others believe he's well within his rights to feel hard done by. What stings most is the silence. No public thanks, no testimonial, not even a proper farewell. That kind of thing sticks in the craw of supporters, particularly the ones who sing your name week in, week out. And if Hart really has been left feeling bitter, this might not be the last we hear of it. There's a bigger conversation brewing here, one that goes well beyond Joe Hart and Celtic. It's about how players, especially those with experience and influence, are treated when their boots are finally hung up. Hart, if the rumors are to be believed, thought he'd become part of the fabric at Parkhead, a guide fit for a role off the pitch. Instead, he feels like he was cast aside like an old jersey. In Scotland, where the bond between club and player runs deep, this sort of thing doesn't sit well. There's talk that Hart could find a role somewhere else. Soon, maybe even across the city or back in England. And if that happens, it'll shine an even brighter light on what Celtic let slip through their fingers. For now, the man himself remains quiet, which only adds weight to the whispers. Supporters, journalists, and ex-players alike are watching closely to see if he breaks his silence and what he might reveal if he does. Until then, this remains a rumor, but one that carries the weight of truth for those who watched him guard the net with pride and passion. It's a chapter that feels no quite closed yet. Hello, fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.